right, hello everybody. My name is Rich Armstrong, and today on Adobe Pro Tips, I am gonna be doing some gradient mapping. Now, in the chat, let me know where you are tuning in from and if it's sunny there, because here in Amsterdam, it has not been sunny. Let's check out the chats just to see that everything is going according to plan. What's up, Cody Bear? What's up, Carol? Apurva? Hey, what's up, Keys? Robert? How you guys doing? Hope you guys having a swell day on Adobe Live. Yeah, so I'm gonna jump into some gradient mapping. If you guys have any questions, yeah, just let me know. I'm gonna be starting with the basics and then leveling up as we go, showing you some really cool illustrative techniques and trying to keep things non-destructive so that we can always tweak and edit as we go. All right, let's get the show on the road. So, gradient maps. I think like one of the easiest ways to demonstrate this is to actually just create a gradient. So I'm gonna press G for a gradient, Shift G to go for the actual gradient. And here I'm gonna go for just a basic black to white or white to black. And here you're like, cool, gradient, great, I get that. Let's create a gradient map now. So either down here, gradient map, over here, which creates a new one, or you can go to layer, and then I think it's new adjustment layer, or image, adjustments, and over here there would be a gradient map. But it's grayed out, so maybe if we do that again, adjustments, also grayed out. One more time, everybody. There we go. So, gradient map. So here I could actually have like two gradient maps, I guess. Anyway, I'm gonna undo that because that was on the background layer. Oh, it's a new adjustment layer. So layer, new adjustment layer, and then gradient map. Because if you don't use an adjustment layer, then then it is destructive. An adjustment layer is non-destructive. Okay, so what do we got here? I'm going to turn this off. We've got our gradient that we put on, and then we've got our gradient map. So white to black. Now check this out. Your gradient map on the properties section over here. I'm just going to tap here. And here you can start to select some gradients to apply to a gradient map. So check this out. So there's some blues here. I'm just going to tap this. And what it's doing is it's applying this set of gradients to the black to white gradient beneath that, or to whatever colors you have beneath that. So blues, let's go for purples, something like this. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's create a new layer over here. I'm going to go for my brush tool. Just go for like a really simple hard round brush. And here I'm painting with white. There we go. But because of the gradient map on top of that, it's applying this pink color to it. If I press X and I go for black, it's then painting this turquoise color. Now if I go back to the gradient map and I tap on that, let's go check out some oranges. Bam, 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 bam. It's really, really, really powerful. I love that. All right. Questions so far? Yes, very sunny. Yes, sunny here in Florida. Love to hear that. From Music City. Is Music City, where is Music City? I was gonna say Tennessee, but it's Nashville, right? It's Nashville. So I'm from Amsterdam. Don't really know my US cities. Hello from Chicago. What's up, Peter? Mordor, what's up? Do they have Photoshop in Mordor? Not quite sure. Cubs, cool. All right, guys. So if you've just popped in, we're doing some gradient mapping inside of Photoshop. And yeah, I'm going to show you a couple of really cool things. So I'm going to go into Finder and drop in this Adobe stock image into Photoshop. There we go. It's a really nice stock image, like really, really nice. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a gradient map, which is actually an adjustment layer. And remember, to get there, you go layer, new adjustment layer, and then you go to gradient map over here. All right, but now what we're going to do is we're going to change this up a little bit. We're going to go for maybe some pastels, something like that. Woo, that is amazing, right? Really cool. Or maybe go for some greens. Super, super cool. Okay, maybe some reds. That looks really cool. So I could be like, okay, I could also reverse that, which then, oof, that looks really, really good, right? So here you can start to see like how flexible this is. And to change it, just double tap and you can change it. Oof, really good. Now, what happens if we want to customize this? So this is where things get really cool, really powerful. So here, we can actually customize this. And I can call this something like Rich's Rad Gradient. All right, bam. It like pops up over there. And if we then change something, so I'm going to tap on this little color stop and then tap on the color. Let's go for a green. Ooh, look at that. Man, this is really cool. So these colors, I've never experimented with these colors before, but this is amazing. So what it's doing is it's going like, ooh, this little white area here, this light area, I'll change the color to the color that you set out in your gradient map, this one over here. And because we've got the reverse on, it's doing a bit of reverse. So that's really cool, right? Let's change this a little bit more. Let's maybe, let's add another color in here. Let's go for a darker, there we go. And maybe this one, change to really dark, or maybe a lighter purple. Oof, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to say Rich Gradient 2, new. And if you've got 2 selected, you can right click on that and then you can rename them. Or I wanted to actually create a group from these guys here. Import, rename, delete. Oh, there we go, new gradient group. So select them, new gradient group, Rich Adobe Live, which is pretty cool. And then here you can export or import these. So I'm going to select these guys, export them. This is again really, really cool. And let's say Rich Gradients. Okay, that means that if I right click on this and I delete the group, oh, that's a pity, right? Well, not really. So check this out. I'm going to go back to Finder, drag in a little bit of marbling, some pretty sweet marbling that I did on my iPad. And then I want to add a gradient map. Black and white is pretty cool, right? And one of the things that you can do here is, I'll go here, I'll add a new adjustment layer and go for curves. And here, you can start playing around with the curves and it changes how the gradient map works. And depending on what side of the gradient map you put it, man, it begins to change things. So gradient map, let's tap here, let's import, and I'll tap on Rich Gradients, open that up, scroll down here, and tap on this one. Ooh, that looks so good. Almost looks like chocolate. Velvet chocolate? Maybe velvet chocolate. All right, let's reverse that. Things look really good. And if we play with the curves here, you can begin to see what happens. Oof, looks really cool. All right, so things are getting steamy here. I like where we're going. What are you guys saying in the chat here? Importing and exporting? Yeah, man, things are crazy. Italian handmade paper. Yeah, I think, I'm not quite sure what the Italian one was, but I think the Turkish one is suminagashi, something like that. But yeah, crazy stuff that you can do here. Another thing that I created is this really cool thing. I did it in processing. Ooh, I'm just like reorganizing stuff here. Whoa. I think I just moved it. There we go. Let's put that in here. Boom. So this is like a script, an algorithm that I wrote. And here again, I can just pop in, wrong button, a gradient map. And we change this to, I'll show you some of my preset ones up here. You can see how much it changes depending on how many stops or how many colors you have in your gradient map. There we go. So you can reverse that too. Yeah, I absolutely love this. You can just like toggle it on and toggle it off. But I'm going to go back to this Adobe stock one over here, because this is where it gets really, really interesting. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to do some brushing now. And so here, just with black and white, like nothing crazy. But if I add a new gradient map here, and I use a clipping mask, I'm going to hold down Option or Alt, or what I can do is go Command Alt G, and that makes it into a clipping mask. So here I've got this gradient map, but what I can do here is apply this gradient map to it, and then when I switch my brush color to white, let's go draw on layer 1. So I've got black and white here, but if I change this gradient map to something like that, ooh, then that gradient map just applies to the layer beneath it, which is super cool. This is clipping masks. I covered this in my last pro tips tutorial. But now, check this out. There's a black and white thing going on here. If I change this to something like a gray, and in the middle, I change this, and let's change this back to this rather intense one. Over here, if I go for a gray, we've got blue going on here. If I change this to a lighter gray, we've got pink going on here. And if I change it to like a dark gray, got some dark blue going on here. But now, wouldn't it be cool if we could adjust this based on the pressure or something like that? So let's try that out. I'm just going to delete everything there. Now, inside of my brush settings here, I'm going to go down to color dynamics, turn that on, and then apply per tip is great. Control here, I'm going to put on pen pressure, and now it's going to go between the foreground and the background depending on how hard I press. I'm going to press D to get back to black and white, and then I'll turn up my brush size a little bit. I will also put on a little bit of shape dynamics, so again, big and small depending on how hard I press. And here you can see that my brush color is changing depending on how hard I press. But not only that, we can go into the gradient map here, tap it, go down here, open up the gradient that I had a bit earlier, and there we go. You can see which one looks really good. It's pretty good. I'll reverse that. Yeah, that looks really good. Do you guys have questions so far? Whoa, ho, ho. Hey, Brazil present. What's up, Anna? Anna? Music Triangle, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina. Awesome, awesome. All right, guys. So, I've shown you a bunch of the basics. I've got 15 minutes to show you how I actually use this. So, I'm going to hide everything. I'm going to press W for Magic Wand, Shift W for this object select. Select this object over here. All right, I think that worked. There we go. Command J, pop it out. So now it's just this amazing model side on, one of my favorite kind of things to illustrate. And then we're going to pop on this gradient or this gradient map. And then below here, I'm going to be working with a little bit of this brush. Go back to the brush settings, shape dynamics. Let's put the pen pressure back on. Color dynamics, pen pressure on. And here, I'll begin to add a couple of elements. Man, I really, really love this. I don't think I've seen too much of this, where if you change your pen pressure, the actual color of the brush changes, especially not if it's dynamic. So basically, it's just black and white over here, and then I've got my gradient map on top of that, or my gradient map layer. If I press X, it's going to go between white and black instead of black and white, and you can see how that looks. All right. And then if I go for a little bit of a harder or a more textured kind of a brush, so one of my favorites is this brush here, except I gotta actually select it. There we go. Okay, now we go to brush settings, color dynamics, I'll turn that on, pen pressure. Okay, so this one's got a little bit more texture. Yeah. So sometimes it can get a little bit messy, especially if you're trying to like color something in. But it can also just be like wild and beautiful at the same time. Especially like with like raindrops or something like that. Alrighty. So I'll just pump this up even more. Okay. And now I'm going to pop this one back on. Just delete it all. Delete it all. Let's go back to properties, change this one to a new gradient map. And here, we can do some more brush work. All right. And this one is slightly different. The colors are slightly different. Yeah. I'm going to press X just to switch the background colors and the foreground colors around. Okay. See, the harder I press, the more pink is coming in here now, sometimes even a bit of white. All right, so maybe that's a little bit much, so I'll just select this one and then mask it like that. So now I'm just like using a clipping mask or a layer mask, sorry, to constrain all of the doodles to one particular place. Okay. And if we wanted to change this gradient map again, we could do it quite easily. Maybe we wanted something like red. And this way, it's, you know, you can experiment and play quite a lot with the different colors that you've put down, and yeah, it's really powerful. Perhaps I want something like this. So in like its basic form, you can use it for duotones, like making a black and white photo or a colored photo, black and white, and then, you know, going between black and white with two different colors. It's quite a popular effect. And you can start putting, you know, other graphic design elements on it, like text, type, logos, that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is really, really cool. I want to show you another thing. Got about 10 minutes left. Maybe I'll try this one here. Just bring this into Photoshop. So this is an abstract piece of art that I did earlier this week. And what I'll do here is I will create a new gradient map. And that's just like an invert. But let's go for some pinks here. Yeah, see, that one's really cool, right? So you can get some really subtle effects like this one. Some pretty wild effects like that one. So let's go for that one. Reverse it. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Now I'm going to press M for my marquee tool. I'll just like select an area and then press G, but I don't want a gradient. I just want a full bucket. And X, there we go. And then I'll just invert that. So I've basically just got like a strip of color here. And then what I can do is with my smudge tool maybe, I can begin to just like bleed this into it. Maybe I'll go for a rounder one or a softer one. Just waiting for Photoshop to catch up a little bit. And so you can begin to blend the same illustration but with different colors together. And it creates like a really nice effect. And here again, you've got your gradient map. So you could just add a stop, change the color, make it white. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm going to create a new document now just to show you another technique. So Command N, I'm just going to go for a 2048 square. See if there's any questions. Looks great. These techniques are incredible. What about a watercolor brush? Have I ever used a watercolor brush inside of Photoshop? Do I even know where they exist? Splatter brushes? Wet media brushes? I don't know. Let's have a look at what this is. Perhaps you're talking about something else. Anyway, I'm going to go for not a threshold. I'm going to go for a gradient map here. And let's go for one of mine that I set up earlier. Yeah, that's a smudge. I want to brush. That's not a smudge. Okay, let me just use the ones that I'm more used to. General brushes. All right, here we go. That's also a smudge. I don't want a smudge. Here we go. We're back in business, or I could go for a hard round. This one. Wow, that's really interesting. All right, enough brush experimentation here. Let's go back to brush settings. Let's go back to shape dynamics. I'll put that onto pen pressure. Color dynamics. Let's put that onto pen pressure. Okay, I'm going to select everything and delete. And here, this becomes really, really cool. You can create some amazing effects like this just by going in and out and in and out, just with your brush. It really feels like it's 3D worm-like brush thing. That's really cool. Now the next thing that I want to show you, besides this reverse and dither thing, not quite sure what the dither does, to be honest, but the method you can change here. You can go for a linear, and it changes it slightly. I can't tell you what these methods actually mean. Classic changes it a little bit, smooth changes it a little bit. Now stripes, this is where it becomes really interesting. So check this out. It's almost like, perhaps if we go back to here, you can see up here, there's a dark bit, there's this blue bit, and there's this purple bit. If we bring these back a little bit, then we can actually change where they switch from one color to the next. It's almost like it's not a gradient. It's just like a poster kind of effect. Let's start over here. So soft, and if I press harder, it's going to go to blue, even harder to black. If I press really soft, it goes to white. So yeah, you can like create some really cool effects here. And it's not a gradient anymore, it's just like a couple of colors. That becomes really cool. And if you wanted to jitter your color, so that's either the brightness or the foreground background jitter, you could pop this in to create a really cool jittery effect. This reminds me a lot of like generative art. Alright, we bring that back down. Alright, so that's a really cool effect. I like that a lot. Change the spacing on a round dissolve brush. I don't even know what that is. Wow. Alright, guys. 5 more minutes. Kyle and Maya have a ton of watercolor brushes. Awesome, awesome. One more thing I can show you guys. So, let's pop this up here. Let's create a new gradient map. Let's go for maybe the one that we created earlier. This one over here. And here, what I want to do, I just want to fill this with black. Okay. Cool. Let's change this to a soft round one, soft pressure opacity. Great, and then color dynamics. Let's put that on pen pressure. And maybe the mode, let's just keep it to normal. So this is pretty cool. And if we change this guy to stripes, nope. You can get some really nice, weird kind of effects. Or if we change this back to these gradients, or the ones at the top. Yeah, things become really interesting, really abstract. All right, guys, I think that about sums it up. Yeah, any more questions, guys? If you do have any questions and you want to hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or something like that, yeah, let me know. Let's check if there's any comments over here. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, gradient maps are awesome. I think that when you start to do things in a non-destructive way, you can experiment, you can have a lot of fun, especially when you combine things with masks and clipping masks, multiple layers, different kinds of artwork, collages, photographs, adding text, type, logos on top of that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. All right, big loves, guys. That was me, Rich Armstrong. Peace out.